Dust swirled like a ghost across the Montana plains, carrying the lonesome ache of a distant harmonica. March wind raw and unforgiving bit at Jack's face as he rode. The world was a canvas of muted browns and dying grass, a mirror for the emptiness that had followed him for 15 years. The memory of her father of a promise made over a dying man had been the only compass he knew. Fort Benton was a lie, a carpenter's trade, a convenient disguise. He was here for something else. He was here for her. The homestead appeared as a smudge against the horizon, a wisp of smoke from a solitary cabin, promising a fragile warmth in a brutal land. His eyes, the color of a winter sky, scanned the empty fields, landing on the woman. She was out in the blizzard's first breath, her movements a dance of fierce independence as she herded her sheep. A rifle was slung across her back, a testament to a life lived without a man's protection. The wolf appeared lean and hungry, a shadow with wicked yellow eyes. Jack's hand went to his Colt. He wasn't here to interfere, but old habits died hard. He put a bullet in the dirt at the wolf's feet, a warning shot that sent the beast scrambling. The woman's rifle came up, her form rigid, unafraid. He tipped his hat. "Ma'am, saw you had some trouble." She didn't lower her weapon, her voice a low rumble of defiance. "I had it handled." As he rode closer, he felt the pull of the past, the weight of a secret he had carried for too long. He saw another wolf, a bigger one, emerge from the tree line. The woman pivoted her boot, slipping on the fresh snow, the rifle firing into the ground. Jack's own gun was out in a flash. The wolf dropped mid-leap, a heap of gray fur barely yards from her still form. He dismounted, holstering the Colt. Dead. He confirmed, his eyes catching hers for a fleeting second. Her name was Sarah Callaway. The name Joseph had given her. The name he had sent Jack across a territory to find. She had an untamed beauty, a stubborn grace. The snow clinging to her lashes made her look like a wild creature frosted with ice. A sudden sharp pain flared in his side. He'd been careless, too focused on the wolves to notice the friend of the first one. A swift movement, a flash of teeth. "You're bleeding." Her voice was stiff with concern. "It's nothing," he lied. But the world tilted, and he stumbled. She hesitated. The coming storm was a savage beast, unforgiving to the wounded. "I can't leave you out here," she said finally. A begrudging admission of a good heart. "Barn's this way. Can you walk?" Jack followed her, a limping shadow, grateful for the shelter. He sat on a bale of hay, his wound of fire beneath his ribs. She was all business as she tended to him, her hands gentle but sure, the touch of a practiced healer. "You know your way around healing," he observed. "My father was a Union Army surgeon," she said, her voice an emotional stone. "A fine man then he was." He'd known her father, had stood shoulder to shoulder with him in a hell of green and gray. Joseph Callaway had been a father to her, but not by blood. Jack had been there when the baby was born, had seen the Cherokee mother die to give her life. He had been there when Joseph had claimed the child as his own. She would be back with food. He watched the storm swallow her form, the vast white world, seeming to hold her, protect her. He had to be careful. The wound was not his only secret. He was a doctor, a man who had abandoned his scalpel for a scout's rifle, a city life for the lonely solace of the plains. A man who had broken every promise he had ever made to himself, all except for the one to a dying friend. The stew was thin, but warm, a comfort he'd gone without for months. She watched him as he ate, a wary sparrow. "Where were you before heading to Fort Benton?" She pressed, her voice a soft, interrogating hum. He could taste the lie on his tongue, but he had to tell her. "Helena, most recently. Before that, Wyoming Territory." He wiped the plate clean with a piece of bread, wanting to be truthful, but knowing the full story would have to wait. "And what did you do before becoming a carpenter?" She asked, her eyes searching his face. "I was a scout during the war." Union sighed. The words tasted like ash. "You recognize the herbs I used on your wound?" She observed, a subtle accusation in her tone. "Most men wouldn't." He met her gaze. He had no answer to that, just a shared history she didn't know she was a part of. He had to earn her trust. The storm raged for 3 days, a living wall of white and wind that kept them confined. He sat in the barn, whittling a piece of wood lost in memories. She came morning and evening, her face a mask of practiced indifference, but her hands were a promise of something else. On the 4th day, the world was silent, blanketed in a blinding perfect white. The animals his only company for so long seemed to recognize him, crowding around him like old friends. Sarah appeared, her face a frown. "You shouldn't be working. You'll reopen that wound." She was annoyed, but he saw the concern in her eyes. "Animals are poor judges of character," she said, her voice devoid of conviction. He smiled. "On the contrary, I've found them to be excellent judges. They just use different criteria than people do." A shadow crossed her face as she spoke of her father. A shared grief, a quiet understanding. "My father. He's buried on the hill behind the cabin." "I'm sorry for your loss," Jack said, the words heavy with sincerity. He knew that pain all too well. "People talk," she said, her voice a low lament. "A woman alone out here. They think it's not proper." He understood that too. "In my experience," he said, the old bitterness rising in his throat, "those who judge most harshly are those least qualified to do so." The words spoken from the heart bridged the distance between them. He followed her into the cabin, a space filled with the scent of wood smoke and dried herbs. It was a home, a sanctuary. He stood near the door, a stranger in a sacred place. "You've made a real home here," he said, the words feeling foreign and intimate. They ate cornbread and beans, a simple meal, but the silence was not empty. The air was thick with unspoken questions. He had to ask. "Why does Blackwood want your land?" She hesitated. "He claims it's for the railroad." "But you don't believe that." She met his gaze. "My father thought he had another reason, a hidden secret of valuable possession." Jack felt the weight of Joseph's letter in his mind, the secret he had sworn to protect. That evening, he was reluctant to leave. He wanted to stay in the warmth of the cabin, in the soft glow of the fire. She knelt beside him, checking his wound, her fingers tracing the path of the claw with a feather-light touch. He watched her face illuminated by the firelight and felt a hunger stir deep within him, a hunger not for food or drink, but for her touch, her presence. "You have a healer's touch," he said, his voice a low rumble, gentle but sure. She looked up, her face closer than he had expected, and he saw the same awareness in her eyes, a fleeting spark of a fire he dared not kindle. He left for the barn, his heart a frantic drumbeat against his ribs. He had to leave. She was not a part of his wandering life, but she was a part of his past and his future. He'd forgotten his saddlebags left by the door. He turned back. As he walked toward the cabin, the sight of her, her hand buried in his bag, a gasp escaping her lips as she pulled out the watch, a shiver running through him. She was holding a piece of him, a piece of his secret. A wave of resignation washed over him. The time for the truth had come. The cabin was silent, the air thick with unspoken truths. He stood in the doorway, the snow a dusting of white on his shoulders. She was holding a pocket watch, his pocket watch. An old, worn metal object, but in her hand it was a talisman of a past he had tried to outrun. Her eyes, wide and filled with 1,000 questions, stared at the inscription. "This belonged to my father." He nodded, and a weary breath escaped his lips. "Yes, you knew him." Her voice shook in accusation. "You lied to me. You didn't just happen by." "No," he admitted, the words a quiet surrender. "I've been looking for you since January." She held up the letter, a fragile piece of yellowed paper. "What truth?" she demanded. "What does this letter mean?" He took a step closer, not threatening, just close enough to feel the heat of the fire on his face. "It's a long story, Sarah. One that should be told sitting down." He watched her, a woman alone on a homestead, carrying the weight of a past she knew nothing about. She was an orphan, he had drifted her. He had to tell her. He had to honor his promise to Joseph. "Tell me now, all of it." He spoke of Gettysburg, of the blood and the mud, of Joseph Callaway, the best surgeon he had ever known and a better man than most. He spoke of the bloodiest single day of the war, of working side by side with her father for 36 hours straight. "We became more than colleagues," he said, the words heavy with a love he had long buried. "A friend, a brother almost." He spoke of Joseph's dream of a place where healing could be pure again. He spoke of their shared love for medicine. He spoke of the boy 16 and bleeding that they had tried to save and failed. "It changed us both," he said, his voice a raw, cracked thing. "After that, I couldn't be a doctor anymore." She was listening, her gaze fixed on him, a silent, unblinking question. She had a right to know. He spoke of his wandering life, of his escape from the ghosts of the past. "I've used what I remember to help people when I could," he said, the words a confession. "But I haven't practiced proper medicine in 15 years. The watch was in her hand, the inscription a testament to a promise made to a life saved. "This was a gift to my father. Why did he want you to have it?" The room was quiet, save for the crackle of the fire. The truth was a tangled vine, and he had to untangle it piece by piece. "Your father didn't just happen upon this place," he said finally. "He sought it out specifically after years of research and correspondence with native healers because of the medicinal plants." She frowned. "That sounds like superstition." "Joseph Callaway was the most scientifically minded man I ever knew," Jack said, his voice firm. "If he believed it, he had reason." He spoke of the land's unique properties of her father's belief that it was a place of powerful medicine. "But it's more than that," he said, the words hanging in the air. "Your father wanted you to know the truth. About who you are. About your mother." He watched her face, a canvas of confusion and disbelief. He spoke of her mother, a Cherokee healer, a woman who had died to give her life. "She told Joseph that her child, that you would have the gift." The words fell like stones into the silent room. "You have your mother's gift," he said, reaching out to cover her hand with a gesture of silent communion. "Joseph believed it was in your blood, your heritage." He spoke of Joseph's promise to her mother to raise her in the knowledge of both worlds. He spoke of his own promise to Joseph to help him bring her into this world. "Why didn't he tell me himself?" she demanded, the betrayal a sharp pang in her voice. "He feared losing you." Jack said, the words a soft, sorrowful echo. "He feared you would feel betrayed." She stood pacing the small cabin, a caged animal. She was not Joseph Callaway's daughter by birth. She was not entirely white. Her gift for healing was not just learned but inherited. And this land, this place she loved, was part of a plan laid out before she was even aware of it. "I need air," she said, her voice a whisper. He knew he had to let her go. He watched her as she went out into the blinding white of the snow, a woman lost and found at the same time. He had told her the truth, and now he had to wait. The snow on her father's grave was pristine, a clean slate. She sank to her knees, the cold seeping through her clothes, but she barely felt it. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. The silence was her only answer. He had loved her. He had protected her. He had given her his name, his love, his life, and he had sent Jack to her to tell her the truth. The tears froze on her cheeks, but she felt a warmth spreading through her. A bond chosen was perhaps stronger than one merely inherited. She felt something inside her shift, not breaking, but expanding. Her identity hadn't been taken from her. It had been added to. She was Sarah Callaway, and she was also the daughter of a Cherokee healer. He watched her from a distance, a silent sentinel. When she looked up, he saw the transformation in her eyes, the sorrow mingled with a fierce strength. "I thought you might need these," he said, holding out her gloves. She took them, their fingers brushing for a moment, a jolt of raw energy passing between them. "Thank you." He knew what he had to do. His task was done. He had delivered the message. He had to go. "I should be on my way," he said, the words feeling false even as he spoke them. "You're still going to Fort Benton?" she asked. He nodded. "That was my plan." The thought of him leaving sent a pang of disappointment through her chest. This man, a stranger just a week ago, was now a part of her world. "The second half of my father's journal," she said, her voice a sudden urgent plea. Would you help me find it before you go? I need to understand the rest of what he was doing here." A smile touched his lips, a genuine one that reached his eyes. "I'd be honored, Sarah." They found the journal under a loose floorboard. She read, her mind reeling with the secrets her father had kept. She read of his meticulous research, his notes on the plants, his unwavering belief in the land's healing properties. And then she read of William Thornton, the man who had left her with scars, the man who had come looking for her after her father had whisked her away. "He never told me," she murmured, her voice a low, wounded sound. Jack's heart ached for her. "Who is William Thornton?" he asked. She looked at him, her eyes filled with a raw, painful memory. "My fiancé once. He was not the man I thought him to be." Jack's hand went to his holstered gun, his knuckles white. "Did he hurt you?" She nodded, the pain of the past, a palpable thing in the room. "I'm sorry, Sarah." The simple words, spoken with deep understanding, healed a wound that had festered for years. She read on, her eyes scanning the pages, until she came across an entry about Blackwood. Her father had suspected him of wanting the land for more than just a railroad. He had a mole, a friend who was a doctor, and he knew about the plants, the most valuable ones. He knew he was dying, she said, her voice a whisper. He spent his final days ensuring his research wouldn't be lost. He protected this land for you, Sarah. The land was for you. He told her of the sacred place, a hidden cave that held the rarest plants, the most powerful medicines. I need to see it, she said, her voice filled with a sudden, fierce determination. The North Field. Will you come with me? He nodded. She was not alone. They trudged through the snow, Jack and Sarah, two souls bound by a shared past, a shared purpose. They found fresh tracks in the snow, human and horse. Someone had been searching. Blackwood, Jack muttered. They found a small metal box, rusted and ancient, buried beneath the disturbed snow. A land deed, hand-drawn maps of the North Field, and a final heart-wrenching letter from her father to her. The letter confirmed her heritage, her mother's name, and the true reason for Blackwood's pursuit. He had learned of the field's value through his cousin, Dr. Collins. He'll be back, Jack said, with more men and better equipment. Sarah's mind raced. The legacy her father had left her was both a gift and a burden. She looked at him, this man who had traveled across a territory to honor a promise. Would you stay and help me, she asked, the question a quiet, tentative hope. I'd be honored, Sarah. The days that followed fell into a quiet rhythm. They worked side by side, Jack and Sarah, her father's journals and notes a shared language between them. He watched her as she worked her hands. The hands of a healer, so gentle, so sure. He saw the way she moved her hips, swaying with a natural grace. He saw the way her hair caught the firelight, a halo of warm honey. He had spent his life running, but here with her, he found a quiet solace he had never known. The longing, once a simmering ache, became a gentle, steady heat. He wanted to touch her, to feel her skin against his, to breathe in the scent of herbs and wood smoke that was uniquely her. But he was a drifter, and she was a woman of the land. A temporary alliance born of necessity. He had to remind himself of that. He had to remind himself of the danger in wanting more. The storm came, a living thing, and with it the quiet hum of danger. Blackwood had been to her homestead, had seen the two of them together. The banker would use her reputation as a weapon against her. Jack chose to sleep in the barn, a self-imposed exile. He would not give them reason to speak ill of her. But the storm was unforgiving, and when he saw her standing in the barn door, her face pale, her lips blue with cold, he knew he had to go to her. Sarah, what are you doing out in this? He asked, a fierce concern in his voice. She was stubborn, a perfect mirror of her father. You need to come to the cabin. It's too cold out here, he protested, but she was unwavering. My father would never forgive me if I let his friend freeze to death. He followed her into the cabin, the warmth of the fire, a blessed relief. The tension between them, a humming, tangible thing, was finally broken. They sat by the fire, talking of inconsequential things, the quiet intimacy of their shared space, a world away from the storm raging outside. He found himself laughing, a sound that felt foreign and good. She was a haven, a soft, warm place in a hard, cold world. I don't care what Blackwood suspects, she said. My reputation is my concern, not his. And I'd rather face gossip than explain to my father in the hereafter why I let his friend die of pneumonia. A genuine smile spread across his face, and he felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. He was home. She was asleep, her breathing deep, and even a sign of her trust. He lay on the cot in the corner, listening to the rhythm of her sleep, the rhythm of his own beating heart. He felt a fierce need to protect her, a need that had nothing to do with Joseph's promise. This was something different, something new. He wanted to stay, not just for now, but forever. The woman of the plains had captured his wandering soul, and he knew with a certainty that was both terrifying and exhilarating that he would never be able to leave. The storm passed, a silent retreat, leaving behind a world of blinding white. The quiet peace of the homestead was a fragile thing, and they both knew it. Sarah found an entry in her father's journal about a hidden cave, the source of the rare, powerful plants. He calls it the heart of the medicine place, she said, her voice filled with a sense of destiny. Jack felt the weight of the secret, the danger, the responsibility. Blackwood's men were in the sacred cave 3 days ago. Before the storm came, a new voice, said, a deep, resonant voice that spoke of ancient knowledge. Jack's hand went to his gun. A man stood in the doorway, a tall figure wrapped in furs. His face weathered, his eyes sharp and knowing. I am Thomas Running Elk, son of Running Elk, who once called Joseph Callaway friend. Thomas Running Elk. Jack knew the name from Joseph's letters, the son of the man who had entrusted the land to Joseph. He looked at Sarah, at the silver pendant at her throat. "You wear my grandmother's necklace," Thomas said, his voice soft with reverence. "It has found its way home." Thomas told them what they already knew. Blackwood had found the cave. His men had taken samples of the most powerful plants. "He will return for more," Thomas said, his face grim. "And when he has enough, he will destroy this place." Thomas, Jack, and Sarah. They were now a trio bound by a shared purpose, a shared history, a shared enemy. They had to protect the cave. Thomas told them of a way, a permanent solution. They had to hide the medicine place completely. "You would need to be formally recognized," Thomas said to Sarah. "It could take years. A difficult choice." Sarah, the daughter of two worlds, wanted to preserve the land, but she also wanted to use its gifts to help people. Jack offered a solution. What if they created a hidden garden within the cave? A section concealed behind a false wall where the most valuable specimens could grow undisturbed. It would be a long, difficult night of work, but it was their only chance. The cave felt different at night. More ancient, more mysterious. The plants along the stream glowed with an otherworldly light, their leaves a vibrant green against the darkness. Jack and Sarah worked together, a silent, unspoken understanding flowing between them. He was a surgeon once more, at his hands gentle and precise. As he prepared the new growing areas, his touch a fleeting caress against her skin. She spoke Cherokee words of respect and permission before touching each plant, the sounds of her mother's language, a new music to his ears. The work was done. The heart of the garden was hidden, safe from Blackwood's greed. They emerged from the cave as dawn was breaking, exhausted but triumphant. They had done what they could. Now they had to face the storm. Blackwood's storm. The sound of hoofbeats, a relentless drumbeat against the earth, filled the silent air. Jack saw them first, 6 men, Blackwood, Dr. Collins, and 4 others. They were here. "Are we ready for this?" Sarah asked. "As ready as we can be," Jack said, his hand resting on his holstered pistol. Thomas, a stoic shadow, gave Sarah one last piece of advice. "Remember, Sisqua, you are the daughter of Nehe. The medicine place has chosen you as its protector. Stand firm in that knowledge." Then came the surprise. 3 more riders, 2 men in formal attire, one a young Cherokee man from the Indian Agency. Thomas had sent for them, a clever, desperate act that had bought them time. Judge Miller, Marshal Evans, and John Walking Stick. They had come to enforce a federal treaty. The Treaty of 1868, a document that protected certain sacred sites of the Cherokee people, including the Medicine Cave. Blackwood was furious, his face a mask of rage and wounded pride. He argued, he threatened, but he was losing. Federal law superseded territorial jurisdiction. He was a defeated man. "This isn't over, Miss Callaway," he hissed. "Not by a long shot." They watched as he rode away, a bitter, broken man. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. The homestead, once a place of quiet solitude, was now a place of purpose. Judge Miller arranged a formal survey of the protected area. John Walking Stick recorded Thomas's oral history of the cave. Jack postponed his journey to Fort Benton indefinitely. He threw himself into the work, his mind and body alive with a sense of purpose. He was home, not just in a place, but with a person. One evening, as they sat by the fire, a soft quiet settled over them. Thomas was asleep in the corner, a peaceful smile on his face. Jack set his papers aside. It was time. "Sarah," he said, the sound of her name, a quiet caress. "There's something I need to tell you." He told her of his reasons for staying, of the home he had found in her. "I've spent 15 years running from connections," he said. "But here with you, I've found something I didn't know I was seeking." Her heart quickened. She waited, her gaze unwavering. "Home," he said, the single word carrying the weight of a lifetime of wandering. She took his hand in hers, a silent, sure promise. "I would like that very much, Daniel, for you to stay, for us to build something together." His real name. She had not used it since learning the truth, and hearing her say it, a soft, intimate thing, made his heart swell with a joy he had never known. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the first hints of spring, the promise of renewal. Beneath the frozen ground, roots stirred with new life, and in the hidden chamber of the Medicine Cave, the transplanted garden continued to grow and protect it sacred. A legacy of 2 traditions, and a testament to the power of a love forged in the breeze, dust, and the danger of the Montana plains. And so the ballad of dust and desire of a love both sweet and dangerous continued. What new challenges await our heroes as they stand together against the past and for a new future?